under the cover of night, you have the President of the United States sending 60,000 troops to potentially be in ground war with Iran. And so here's what just went down at the start of this weekend. So if there was any intention, any whatsoever, of avoiding conflict, avoiding war, that's over now. You're not bringing these many gunships, airships, attack ships, you name it. That's what's coming. And for those who may not know, Iran declared earlier today that the Strait of Hormuz is officially closed. So when we said that Iran was our checkmate, we weren't lying. This is exactly what we said would happen. And rather than admit defeat, they've decided, let's double and triple and quadruple down and put as many lives at risk as we possibly can. Colin, if you would, please pull up that tweet. President. There you go. So, it stands to reason why this is happening again. And now we have a pretty good idea as to why that is the case. 1,000 missiles are locked and loaded and aimed at the Islamic Republic of Iran, with thousands of more to immediately follow should the Iranian government act on its threat pronounced in many corners of the globe to assassinate or attempt to assassinate the sitting president of the United States. In this case, me. Can you believe it? Orders have already been given, and the U.S. military is ready, willing, and able for a 1-year period of time, subject to extension, to completely decimate and destroy all areas of Iran. Praise be to Allah, President Donald J. Trump. So, of course, he's flexing his muscles and acting like he's going to make a big deal out of this. I highly doubt it, but you never know. This is another example of the Hasbara that goes on. And as such, Israel, once again, has been popping off about how it's actually Iran trying to assassinate you. So they did it again. And of course, Trump is buying it. Or is he just going along with the program? And this is the back and forth that they pretend that they're actually having, when in reality, everyone is on the same team. And that's how this goes. The real danger in how many American lives will now be lost as a result of continued war games or outright war. Iran cannot be defeated. Iran has checkmated us, and we have decided not to do anything logical regarding how we back away from this. Their people are willing to die for what they believe in. You are going to send untold numbers of American service members to their deaths. And for what? You're not going to get the strait opened. That's over and done with. Until you have accepted defeat, that strait will remain closed, to you especially, and to us as a nation that will suffer as a result. Like I said, maybe this is all just a means to an end to get us to actually have a revolution, and maybe that's what's coming. But remember, we're doing it on behalf of a psychotic nation that just did this earlier today. U.S. Congressman says he was detained by armed Israeli settlers in occupied West Bank. Khanna said settlers were armed with U.S.-made weapons and Israeli Defense Forces refused to intervene, so they say. Congressman Khanna says armed Israeli settlers detained him during a visit to the Israel-occupied West Bank recently, describing the experience as a firsthand view of the realities faced by Palestinians living under occupation. In an interview with Reuters on Thursday from a Palestinian village, the progressive U.S. House Dem from Cali said his detention happened the previous day while his delegation visited an area of the southern West Bank that has experienced repeated attacks by Israeli settlers. Khanna recounts how settlers carried U.S.-made M4 rifles surrounding the group van. We were at a village that Israeli settlers had destroyed. They had destroyed the school. They had destroyed the village. And we are just looking at it. Referring to the IDF, which are funded in part by the U.S. military aid. Now it will soon be all of it. Khanna continued, and these hoodlums detained us. They blocked us off the road and then killed the IDF, and the IDF is on their side, not on the side of the Americans. Khanna also told Reuters, I saw the arrogance in the eyes of those settlers, 21, 22-year-olds with guns. And again, this is stuff we'll talk about in the video. Cameron Kasky, who we know is one of Khanna's aides, was there when the congressman's group was detained, saying the IDF showed up to back up the settlers, not the U.S. congressman, obviously. The New York Times first reported Khanna's account on Saturday morning, told the outlet, I felt powerless in that situation, which is not an easy thing, as I have a lot of privilege in my life. Well, at least he's honest about that one. And so there is the convoy getting stopped and ultimately arrested. Keep going. Imagine how people feel every day. Palestinians under the occupation. If they could make an American congressperson feel powerless for 90 minutes. Khan said he and his group were ultimately able to continue traveling after contacting the U.S. Embassy and Israeli police. And what if he wasn't able to do that? What if he wasn't able to connect with them? What if he was on his own? Maybe they wouldn't have been heard from. As we scroll down, asked by Reuters whether he intends to run for president, Khanna replied, I'm strongly considering it, and I'm more resolved to consider it after this trip. Again, Khanna, I think we told you, was running for president well over a year ago. I have on good authority that he's running. I'm not surprised he's running. And it'll be interesting to see if he is anything like what a Massey presidential campaign would be like. More than 700,000 Israelis reside in settlements across the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem. The UN considers Israeli settlements in the West Bank to be illegal, and Israel has faced repeated criticism over violence and other actions by settlers in the territory. Since Israel took control of the West Bank in 1967, restrictions imposed there have prevented the territory from developing a self-sustaining economy. Those restrictions intensified significantly after the deadly attacks of October 7th, 2023, Hamas attacks. Yeah, Hamas attacks. Nearly 300,000 Palestinians have lost employment in the West Bank. A June report issued by a UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry concluded that Israeli authorities and security forces have deliberately targeted Palestinian children, resulting in genocide, crimes against humanity, and war crimes in the Gaza Strip and war crimes in the West Bank. According to data from human rights organization Yesh Din, no Israeli has been indicted for the killing of a Palestinian since October 2023. And you still think it's not a genocide or an apartheid state? It's pretty rough. And here is what Khanna had to say about his detainment.
I saw the arrogance in the eyes of those settlers, 21 and 22-year-olds with guns, laughing that they had detained us. The arrogance of those young IDF soldiers that my tax dollars are funding, having no respect for the fact that they were detaining Americans, no respect that there was an American congressperson in that bus, and laughing when our translator told them that there are Americans there and the American embassy is concerned. It is the arrogance of power.
And in many cases, it's unlimited power because, as is often the case, it's kind of one of the detrimental components to electoral politics. One of the biggest reasons why no one changes or no one does anything is because they all, not only are they showing you how little respect they have in regards to how much power you actually have, you have more than you think. But the thing you have to keep in mind is that when a voting bloc knows that voting is going to be done a certain way, then the people in charge don't have to do anything because you're not willing to do something else. You're not willing to vote for the other party or a third party or do something. It's the same thing with Israel and their genocide. We are not willing to do anything to stop them, almost overwhelmingly because it's financially related. But bear no difference to anything regarding this, because if they actually were threatened by the prospect of us not having their back or philosophy in terms of policy changing, then they would likely change too. Maybe not. Maybe they're so damn psychotic and nihilistic, apocalyptic, that they would be willing to just say, yeah, fuck it, we take care of ourselves, even though they'd be wrong. But I would like for them to have to do that. I'd like for them to have to answer for that problem. They don't seem right now to care one way or the other. What happens? Because they are convinced that we are too much of a cuck nation to stand up to them and stop this. There's too much financial benefit to too many people. And that's why they look the other way when it comes to genocide. Even genocide. Money be damned. They say it's the root of all evil. You can see why.
Of a power that has had no accountability, total impunity, and has created a toxic culture of oppression.
I thought it was actually kind of perplexing that Khanna said that he was going to the West Bank. I thought for sure that the reason he would do something like that is for scoring political points. And obviously him mentioning in the interview that he is strongly considering, running for president is should not be any surprise to anybody. I mean, let's be honest. Khanna has been prepping for presidential run for the better part of probably 4 or 5 years now. So it's pretty obvious he's going to run. I believe that he will be viable, but again, the Democratic Party has super delegates and a broken infrastructure, which you cannot break through. So why he's doing it? Hopefully to get more people behind the policies that he'll hopefully be pushing for. At least that's my hope. And we'll see what happens.